we looked at the beginning of Manah Shodanam and the importance that this purification of mind, which has both in our spiritual as well as secular fields. In the spiritual field, the highest vocation of human birth, the self-realization, is not possible at all without the purification of mind. And in the secular field, the achievements in this world cannot be enjoyed without the purification of mind. Not only that, but without the purification of mind in the secular world, the person with power becomes a tyrant. A person with power abuses power absolutely. And that can be seen in a nuclear family, in a extended family. It can be seen in the society, in the friend circle, in the nation. So the purification of mind is of utmost importance, and when that purification is coupled by other spiritual practices of the acquisition of knowledge, both the integrated equipment can realize the truth. The first shloka started out as an invocation. The supreme goal is indicated. Brahman, the absolute being, is remembered. That being the goal, that being the absolute, we bow down to it. And the goal is indicated: Paramatma Advayananda Sarva Bhuta Sthitopiha Ajnane Navruto Adrushtaha Tathaivacha Manomalaihi. Because of the impurities of mind, this absolute self is not available, even though it pervades everything and in all beings it resides equally. It is not available. Second shloka went on to say that when this ignorance is dispelled by knowledge, jnane natu tadajnanam nashte bhati sati paramatma saha swayam vibhati. This absolute shines by itself when the ignorance is removed. Even though it is difficult to comprehend, yet this is a statement of fact, that this self-luminous self is self-effulgent. No practices need to be done to realize the self. The only practice that needs to be done is to remove the ignorance. That is all. All spiritual practices are for the removal of ajnan. Yavan malanakshiyante manasaha ragarupakaha tavan tattvat jignasa jayate manushe hrudi. As long as, the third shloka says, as long as these impurities persist, as long as the impurities of the mind consumes the individual in the form of likes and dislikes, that likes and dislikes, raga rupakaha, all of those, tavan tattva jignasa na jayate manushe hrudi. The desire to know the self will not be there. The ignorance which envelops our equipment will make that person extroverted, and in the extrovertedness the entire vital times of the life will be drained. Katham chidyati jayate tattva jignasa purva karmatah bodha api jayate yadva tannishtha naiva sambhavet. We saw that in case if somebody is born with some type of Purva Janam Kruta Punya, somebody has brought Punya of the past. And what is the Purva Janam Kruta Karma? It is said, Katham Chid Yadi Jayate Tattvecha. Tattva Ichha, the desire to know. Because the person is born in that family, the person doesn't have to work hard. They are born in a family where this knowledge exists, people are practicing, the elders, the child sees from childhood the adults practicing and naturally is inquisitive, what is going on? But for that person who is inquisitive, but the mind is not pure. And we see that in Bhagavatam, in the story of Gokarna, Atmadev, father was such a divine soul. But the mother, Dhunduli, giving birth to Dhundukari, that extroverted boy created colossal destruction. But there was another child, Gokarna, who understood the plight of the father. He left home and actually he comes back later on to rescue the mother as well as the elder brother who had created a havoc, younger brother. So we see that in one family, two people may be on the path of complete Tattva Jnana, Tattva Ichha is there and the Jnana is attained by practices, and in fact by seeing, Atmadev even got Vairagya and just ran away from the home. But for the one who doesn't have purity of mind, he sees the father doing it, but purity of mind is not there. For such a person, bodha api na jayat, tattva nishtha na jayate, this abidance in this knowledge does not take place. Like I was saying, that it is very important. Externally one may have all the muddy upacharas of purity and this and that, but if the inside world is not proper, if the inside world is consumed with the dirt itself, then the external adjustments cannot go very far. It is meant for purification, it is meant for the self-evolution, but we have to pay attention to the inner equipment. Nishtha abhavat paranando jivan muktasya yoginah sadakair nanubhuyeta viphalam tarhi sadhanam. Then all spiritual practices viphalam. These spiritual practices do not bear fruit. The bearing of the fruit is what? Actually enjoying the bliss of the self. We've come over here to be happy and to make others happy. And if that itself is not attained, then what is the use of all the spiritual practices? Spiritual practices should result into a self-transformation. And if the transformation itself is not there, then it becomes very difficult. Nishtha abhavat paranandah jivan muktasya yoginah. For a jivan mukta, a yogi who enjoys the bliss of the self here and now, not some delayed time or after death in some other loka. No, the enjoyment of the jnanam is right here. Jivan muktasya, as they are living, they are liberated from all types of impurities and all types of the limited understanding that the world is real and that I am the body. These two illusions, they fall off, and realizing that I am in essence the absolute, and having understood, for this Jivan Mukta, they have gained abidance. But Nishtha Abhavat Sadhakaihi, for the spiritual seekers who put effort to do spiritual practices but consciously do not pay attention to the purification of the mind. And for such a sadhak who does practices for the sake of doing practices but are not paying attention to what the practices should transform, which is the purity of the mind. If that is not there, then for that sadhak, paranandaha na anubhuyate, this bliss is not enjoyed. That is unattained. And when it is not attained, over a period of time, a person says, these practices don't work. And they will give up on the practices. Some people, they shut their door on spirituality, on religion, on theology, uttering that it doesn't work. But the reason why it doesn't work is because attention is not given to the purification of mind. Somebody who does Sandhya Vandanam for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and yet that person is exactly the way they were when they were 21. Then they've done the karma, but the karma has not resulted in this purification. And that is why we have to notice, if I put it on a fast forward that it becomes a habit of doing Sandhya Vandanam, immediately you take bath, you sit down and finish it off in 2-3 minutes. Then it becomes a habit like drinking tea, drinking coffee. And habits don't bless us. Habits cannot bless us. That radio which chants Rudram, what does the radio know what it is doing? In the same way, the equipment which chants all the mantras, but the purpose why it is doing, it is not known. Then it doesn't bear fruit. That's why this shloka is important, that we must make sure that the vasanas decrease and then the mind becomes more silent. The more sadhanas we do, there should be some recognizable change for us, at least to us. And if somebody else tells us, then that means sadhanas are definitely working. So over here, this abidance, to gain that abidance in there, equipment has to be prepared. And the preparation is very important. Continuing, shloka number 6. Drudanishthayika siddhyartham manashuddhirapekshita Tadartham sadhaka sarve. Yatantam druda nishchayaha. Druda nishtha eka siddhyartham. For this firm abidance in this absolute, for the mind to gain its abidance in this absolute. Why do we want to get this abidance in the absolute? Number one, it is my nature. Number two, it is the very purpose why I have been sent on this planet. Number three, it will nobilize my living in this world. The problems that I am experiencing are because I have not gained abidance in my nature. This is why it has to be attained. There is a reason why we have to put effort to gain abidance. So if we can understand these three simple things, it is my nature. Number two, it is the very purpose of human birth. Everything else that we do is only secondary. Main purpose of human birth is to realize. No other yoni, womb, an ant, a bird, a dog, a cat, nothing can realize. That dog can take birth in the greatest ashram and listen to all types of shastra for 8, 9, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. Yes, punya, but it cannot gain abidance. It is treated well, it got a good environment, peaceful life, everything, but it cannot gain abidance. So second is very important. It is the very purpose of human birth. We have to gain that abidance. If at all we go in front of Bhagavan and do prayers, we should ask for this, that give me abidance in this, Bhagavan. Purify this equipment, give me that abidance. And third, all our worldly problems as though will disappear. Even though remaining there, the mind and intellect knowing its true nature, it is not going to feel the pangs of life as an impure mind and intellect would feel. So, Druda Nishtha Eka Siddhyartham, this one has to be attained for gaining this and this alone. So, this Eka is very important. Manah Shuddhihi Apekshita. It is of the necessity that this equipment becomes pure. Without the purity of this mind, abidance cannot be gained. Tadartham, for that reason, sadhakaha sarve, all spiritual students, yatantam druda nishchaya. There should be a firm sankalpa to do spiritual practices. The sankalpa of spiritual practice should not be given up. And what is meant by this sankalpa is the firm assertion of the mind that I will fall, but I will not give up this practice. And this sankalpa is very important. That's why over here it is said, Deham va patayami karyam va siddhayami. It's a very important sutra. It is that let the body fall, but I will make sure that what I have to complete, I will complete. Karyam va siddhayami. And over here the karyam which is talked about is sadhana. Sadhana, I will make sure that spiritual practices are met. Our spiritual practices should be simple enough that wherever we go, we should be able to do it. Riding in the train, a plane, a bus, traveling, close your eyes and you can do your spiritual practices, whatever it is. But that time to tune the mind must not be ejected. Prematurely, if this spiritual practice is given up, if it is given up prematurely, if the mind has not ripened, it will not mold to Tattva Jnana. And that is why over here this Dhrudha Nishchayaha Yatantam Sarve Sadhakaha. All spiritual seekers must, absolutely must take on to this vow of completing spiritual practices. Accept this as the goal of life, and then all else can follow. But these spiritual practices are very important. So, and that all the Puranic stories are only showing this. We see Dhruvaji's charitra, Prahladji's charitra. Over here example is given of Upamanyu. So each one of them, these students, Eklavya, practice. That same teacher takes away the thumb as the dakshina, But he gave away his thumb knowing very well that he was the best student. And even that he gave up. That was the siddhi attained, and he is known for that great siddhi of complete surrender to teacher. When one surrenders even to a statue, he gains that. For training such as archery, he had just made a statue of his teacher. So then what to talk of that mind which has accepted Paramatma, which is everywhere, first and foremost right here in one's own self. So this is a very important shloka. So our sankalpas, whatever it may be, we may keep our spiritual vows so that we grow in our spiritual practices and in the purification of mind. Manashuddhi karaniha sadhanani vadantiha yajñodanam tapaschaiva japastirtham vratastatha. So some spiritual practices are talked about over here. So manashuddhi karaniha, for the sake of the purification of mind, sadhanani vadantiha, some spiritual practices are talked about. What are some of the spiritual practices? Number one, yajna. So there are so many meanings of this word yajna. The literal meaning of the word yajna is, of course, the fire ritual. If we can do a fire ritual, nothing greater than that. That fire ritual, if it is performed once a month or something like that, it brings about a lot of purification. In olden days, it was to be done daily. That fire ritual is called Agnihotri Karma. Every day the fire ritual had to be done, and wherever this fire ritual is done, there is an environment purity, there is a purity of the environment in which the family lives, the village, the town, the society, and even that one village in Karnataka where this Agnihotri still live. It is a place of pure joy and harmony. Even today, nobody locks their doors. Just a simple Agnihotri ritual, because it brings about purity of mind, clarity of thought, and because of that, actions are transformed. It can be seen even today. I showed an Agnihotri family in Australia. There was a video about them. So that is one meaning of yajna. Second meaning of yajna is the attitude of yajna, which is what Bhagavan Krishna uses in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He uses karma as a yoga and karma as a yajna. Yajnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Bhagavan says, if karma is done without the attitude of yajna, then that karma becomes the cause of bondage. So, Bhagavan Krishna uses the word yajna as the spirit of yajna, which is invoked in all activities that I do. And what is the spirit of yajna? Yajna, when that swaha, swaha, swaha is done, I'm offering everything for the sake of the deity invoked in the fire. If the deity invoked in the fire is Vinayaka, then everybody sitting around is offering only to Vinayaka. In the same way, when I have invoked Bhagavan, then all actions that I do, I offer it at the feet of Bhagavan. And Ramana Maharshi Ji also says, which is quoted over here, Jagata Ishadi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Brut Deva Pujanam. That for him, the yajna is worship. And what is worship over here? The eightfold worship of Bhagavan. Bhagavan who exists in the eightfold ways. And the eightfold ways are the 5 great elements: Manah, Buddhi and Ahankar. These are the eightfold Prakriti. Bhinna Prakriti Ashtadha. So the 5 great elements, and then the mind, the intellect and the ego. These are the eightfold created things in this world with which the world can be experienced and enjoyed. So when that individual jiva approaches the altar of worship, the mind itself invokes itself as Bhagavan. The intellect itself invokes itself as Bhagavan and serves. How? Proper knowledge is given to intellect. How? By proper emotions and feelings are served at the level of the mind. All the negative emotions and feelings and all those things are eradicated. And the 5 elements, every being over here, a blade of grass, a rock, a stone, everything is regarded with great attention. See, this brings about awareness. How we walk, how we remove our slippers, how we use our pots and pan in the kitchen. Prakriti. How do we cook? How do we prepare? How do we clean? How do we keep things? All these things go into the worship because it is attitude over here. So yajna is the attitude with which, and this brings about the greatest purity of mind. Why? Attentiveness. That attentiveness, once the mind attains dexterity in attention, actually no additional sadhana is required. Because all that we do is only for this attentiveness of mind, for purification of mind, for that intellect, and that mind will see Bhagwan everywhere. That was clearly evident in Gurudev's life. If somebody didn't even iron his kurta properly, he would immediately point it out. Not like he would get angry or something, but to show that whenever you do a karma, do the karma properly. I still remember stuffing the envelopes. It had to be sealed just right. If the seal was not proper, he would remove that envelope, another would be taken, and he would address it. Those days he used to, there was no Gmail, so it was all letter communication. But everything was done properly. He had the breathing problem, so inhalers were not readily available. So he had to carry that snuff that he would have, and that opened up and dilated his breathing passages so he could speak. So that box, properly he would open, take right amount and close it. Every single thing was yajna, yajna, yajna. So that is a glory of a Mahatma, that attentiveness is the hallmark of this yajna. Danam. The purpose of danam is to recognize the blessings that we have in our life. It is not that we are doing somebody else a favor. That I have money, I am giving to someone. That I have this, I am giving to someone. Our understanding of danam needs to be proper. Danam, the understanding that I have been privileged in this birth, and that privilege allows me to share. And if you read the commentary, Guruji says, what right hand gives, left hand doesn't even know. But if there is some expectation in return when we give, it is no longer danam. Then the purification, it doesn't happen, because the idea is we have to make the equipment sharp and the equipment subtle, so it has to become more pervasive. Yajna makes it sharp, attentiveness. Danam makes it subtle, pervasive. And there comes a point in time, danam turns into complete divine vairagya. Nothing the person holds onto. Accept everything, reject nothing, and hold on to nothing. This is what Gurudev used to say. Accept everything, reject nothing. If somebody gives something, take it, but don't hold on to it. Give it away. Use it if there is a utility in life. If there is no utility, keep it, and the one who needs it, you give it off. So then what happens is, this dhanam turns into vairagya. Just yesterday in news I was reading about Warren Buffett gave some $28.5 billion, some other charity. So there was a big talk about, in the business world, that what is charity? What is a foundation? How do we give off money and all those things? And he has no interest in knowing where this money is going. He has given it to foundation. He says, just distribute. And that type of dhanam is considered to be a proper dhan. That no, I will only give to this charity, but I will not give to this charity. He gave it to a foundation. You guys decide. People should benefit. Bas. That is it. That type of nobility of mind blesses a human being. So, yajna, dhanam. Dhanam, that turns into divine vairagya. Tapas. Tapas, the purpose of tapas is the sole purpose of attaining chitta ekagrata. That is the whole purpose of tapas. Over here, Guruji has talked about it. Earlier he has mentioned that tapas is that which results in chitta ekagrata. Paramam tapa chitta ekagryam. So the greatest type of tapas is when we have this, it's on page 17, manasascha indriyanam cha ekagryam paramam tapaha. So that tapas is that which integrates our senses, and it integrates our mind. That is considered to be tapas. As tapas, austerity, if we feel that we are deprived, then it cannot be a tapas. In tapas, we abstain from, okay, I'm not going to watch movies. Okay, I'm not going to eat this food. I am not going to go to this place. Why? Because in this place, this particular sense gets rattled. I'm not going to see movies. Why? Because through the eyes, the mind gets agitated. So there are so many different types of tapas people can do. And a lot of people, like for example, Swami Shivananda, the Diksha Guru of Swami Chinmayananji Maharaj, he used to be submerged in Gangaji up to waist deep water, and then he would do his japa. There was there was a tapas, because in Himalayas in winter months to go in, or in summer months to go in Gangaji, it is ice cold water. What to talk of in the winter months? He would wake up in the morning, go in Gangaji, take bath in that ice cold water, and then stand in there and do his japa. So later on he says, please don't do such things. All I got from doing japa in Gangaji is varicose veins. Towards later on in his life, they had to like literally massage his feet so much because the circulation would not be there. Ice cold water, you keep on putting this feet, the circulation was destroyed. And he's a medical doctor, he was a medical doctor himself. But in the name of tapas. So later on he used to tell his student, he said, please don't do such things. Tapas should be, it should transform our senses and it should transform our mind. If our senses become quiet, then that tapas has given a proper fruit. Japaha. Japa. Bhagavan Krishna says, Yajnanam japa yajñosmi. You know, there is nothing as greater as japa. This continuous chanting of a mantra, bathing the mind with the words of Bhagavan. That is what japa is. A continuous utterance within to bathe this mind with divinity. And if we keep on doing japa, but the mind's attention is elsewhere, japa cannot do what it is supposed to do, but at the same time, it has not gone to waste. A person may get some benefit out of that japa. But true japa is when mind is aware of the fact that it is chanting the name of the Lord. The minute the mind runs away to some other thoughts, the mind has to be brought back. The mind has to be brought back. Time and again, mind has to be brought back. That is a great, great japa. Tirtha. Tirtha yatra. People want to go to Himalayas, people want to go to different places of pilgrimage in India and so on and so forth. But a true tirtha is tirthi kurvanti tirthani. Actual tirtha is a satsang found in a place of divinity. And the tirtha gets its power only because there are great Mahatmas over there. If we go to Prayag and we take bath in Gangaji, but if we don't do satsang in Prayag, that bath in Gangaji can do but little. The actual meaning of tirtha is satsang attained in that place. The place is a place of pilgrimage because there are great noble men who can be found over there. Uttarkashi gains its status not because it is on the banks of Gangaji. We find hundreds of cities on the banks of Gangaji. Uttarkashi gains its status because we can find Mahatmas doing their sadhanas, and we have the ability to ask questions. That is called a tirtha. Water is called tirtha. By itself, when water is left Over here, it cannot do anything. But when this is poured onto Shiva Linga, then this water purifies. This water in a glass, tirtha. But when I pour on me, it cleanses me and then it becomes tirtha. When I drink it, it purifies me and it blesses me. But if it is lying in here, it cannot do anything. In the same way, the tirtha has the power only because in that place we find divine people to do satsang. And if we don't find people to do satsang, we should quietly sit in a corner and the deity presiding over the tirtha we should invoke. Oh Lord, bless me with satsang. The deity will come and give you satsang. That is a great type of satsang. Taponji Maharaj, he did satsang with Kashi Vishwanath. And he offered everything, composition that he was able to offer, Sri Somya Kashi Stotram. It was inspiration by Lord Shiva himself. So, that is tirtha. Vrata, all different types of spiritual practices. People fast. But on that fast day, if we make more food than usual, then it is not considered to be a vratam. It is only vrata, upavas, because upe samipe sthitva, I go closer to Bhagavan, and tasmin deshe vasati, I dwell in front of Bhagavan. That is called upavasa. That I remove that time spent in the kitchen and I spend in front of Bhagavan. So in this way, these are all the different types of spiritual practices. I took some time to go through all of them. Over here, Samartha Ramadas is known as Samartha Ramadas because he got, Guruji says over here, 130 million japas he had done of this Maha Mantra, and the mantra itself had become Siddha. And mind couldn't put away this mantra. It kept on chanting, kept on chanting, kept on chanting. There came a point in time he was watching his own mind chant the mantra, and it was unstoppable. And that Siddhi allowed everything to happen around him. Now, shloka number 8. Vichara sadhanam shreshtham varnyatetra yathamati mahatvam tasya vai proktam krishnena swayameva hi. Bhagavan Shri Krishna has talked about in Bhagavad Gita. And what has he talked about in Gita? Krishnena swayameva hi. Bhagavan Shri Krishna proktam, he uttered. What did he say? Vichara sadhanam shreshta. Of all spiritual practices we saw, the yajna, the dana, the japa, the tapas, and all these spiritual practices of the last shloka, of all spiritual practices, Bhagavan Krishna says, Vichara sadhanam shreshtam varnyate atra yathamatihi. Over here, Guruji says, I remember, my mind remembers what Bhagavan Shri Krishna has said. Mahatvam tasya vai proktam, the greatness of what Bhagavan Shri Krishna has uttered, I will declare it. And what did Bhagavan Krishna say? The the shloka itself is paraphrased over here. Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitramiha vidyate bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. So this shloka is just lifted from Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavan Shri Krishna says that Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitramiha vidyate. Bhagavan says there is nothing as purifying as knowledge. Pavitram, the most purifying, pavitram, iha over here, na vidyate, it is not known, jnanena sadrusham, like knowledge. Knowledge is the greatest purification. Bahavo jnana tapasa, and this tapas of knowledge, puta madbhavam agataha, those people have been purified. Puta madbhavam agataha, those people have attained me, those people have arrived at my feet, those people have attained me, madbhavam agataha. And this is the glory of this jnana. So what is jnana then? So jnana over here, Guruji in shloka number 8 has said vicharaha. So we have to think. This equipment, one is smitten with emotions and feelings, but the other one is the seat of proper inquiry and thought. So proper inquiry and thought process itself purifies mind. And if this inquiry is not used along with this japa, tapa, dana, all the practices for the mind, if the greatest purifying agent is not used, which is vichar, it becomes futile. So many people say, Swamiji, this emotion and feeling which takes over me and makes me behave like a demon, anger, how do I get rid of it? Can I do some japa to get rid of anger? Is there some tapas? Is there some yajna? Some dan? What can we do to get rid of anger? Nothing works when it comes to anger. The only thing that works is inquiry. Why am I getting angry? Certain negativities which create colossal problem, anger, desires, passion, greed, jealousy, these are the 6 Mahavairi. Only by vichar we can remove them. Our habits and all those things can be changed by attitude, can be fixed. All those things can be done by this yajna and japa and dhanam and tapa and karma and all those things. But the unleashed feelings, emotions, which are very subtle aspects of our personality, those by proper inquiry we can remove them. That is why nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitramiha vidyate. Once I understand the genesis of anger, Why do I get angry? Why is it in this situation? Why is it with this person? The minute I inquire that, I have rooted it out in the bud phase. And thus, what knowledge can do to purify, nothing can do. And that is why nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitramiha vidyate. Bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. Great people, through inquiry, they have arrived at me. And if we understand it, we can give it up immediately. Cold showers or walking away and time out and all those things are temporarily, we can fix it. But it is not a permanent solution. Because we are seeking a material solution, something in this world, for a psychological problem. Anger is a psychological problem. And we want material fix. Take shower. Arey? Don't go to that place. Okay, for how long will you not go to that place? Certain organizations, sannyasi should not come in front of a woman. बड़ी अच्छी बात बता दी. But for about the woman on the inside? So, Gurudev used to say, face it. Remove the source. Lust, passion, greed, anger, jealousy. So, for a psychological problem, there cannot be a physiological fix. Absurd. It doesn't work that way. So, that is why nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitramiha vidyate. It's a very profound statement, 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue this tomorrow. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.